All right, sweetheart, go ahead.
I came into the seminar thinking I was writing one genre of screenplay, and I'm realizing that I'm maybe writing two, maybe three different kinds, a blend. Once I figure out what the primary one is, how do I understand the conventions of the different genre and prioritize the conventions in terms of the acts? That's my question.
Well, to understand conventions, the only way I know is the old-fashioned way of going to the movies or going to the video shop or Netflix or whatever and getting 10, 15, 20 examples of the genre in which you're writing, and then put those films on your player and study the film, constantly stopping and going, asking the question, what do films or stories of this genre always do? What are their conventional settings, their conventional roles that you have to create into characters, their conventional events, of course, and their conventional values. And the only way to learn that is to study other people's work, and as many as possible, so that you can stack them all up one on top of the other, then look down through everything you studied and say, what do stories of this kind always do? Those are the conventions that the audience has come to know and expects you somehow to deal with one way or another. You can break convention, you can bend it, but you can't just be ignorant of it. On the other hand, the second part of that question, conventions are not something that are that you prioritize. I don't think I've ever taught that. For example, there is a conventional setting for a war movie. It's going to be a battlefield of some kind out on the ocean, up in outer space, on the ground, but you're going to be in a world of war, and that'll be the setting. There's no priority for that. It's just the setting. It's going to be the setting from one end of the work to the other. If you're writing a love story, you're going to have lovers, and you're going to have often the corner on a triangle of lovers that we call the Bellamy character. And these characters, again, are going to be worked through the entire story. And when you introduce one character or another, at what point in the story, there's no formula for that sort of thing. And so conventions are what they are. And in terms of prioritizing them, that's just a concept that makes no sense in writing. You work with them. You just work with those conventions. If it is a love story, the inciting incident will be the lovers meet, and generally speaking, that's going to happen somewhere in Act 1. But I can imagine stories like Sleepless in Seattle, where the lovers don't meet until the very end of the film. And so it's a love story about longing for love rather than a conventional love story. So there are these conventions can be worked with, played with, changed in one way or another, but somehow you have to work with them. But there are no formulas, and certainly no sense of prioritizing conventions. They are just there as part of the work, and you have to know what the audience knows about these conventions, or even more, certainly than the audience knows, so that you can work with those conventions in a way that the audience can't anticipate quite and find predictable.